I gotta pull up. All right, welcome those of you tuning in. In fact, let me get a little head count here. Go ahead, put a one in the comments for me if you are here tuning into overcoming the learning curve, or let's call it mastering the learning curve. All right, good stuff. Henny, you had us pinned. You want to spotlight our videos again? And then I'm gonna set up this a couple slides that I'm gonna present here. All right.
Good morning.
Set up. All right, we'll have to edit out some of this dead space for the replay so people coming in don't just like see us. But all right. Welcome, guys, to call number 2 out of 4 in our series of mastery. So every Wednesday evening here in the Mac Room, I do a new agent master class. And in the new agent master class, I walk you through 4 challenges that are sequential that you're going to need to master. And they're sequential as in they follow a sequence. You can't do one without having done the other. And the first challenge you're going to experience is mastering your schedule. You're either going to figure out your schedule or you're going to quit. If you're here 6 months from now and you have not mastered your schedule or figured out how, when, where to show up or what to do with your time, you're not going to make it. Right? And so we talked about that last week. That's a recording. It's now a resource in a database. So we're going to address today the next challenge in the sequence of mastery. And this is the learning curve. So once you master your schedule, you know how to show up, where to show up, when to show up. Now you're going to start asking, okay, I'm here. What do I do with that? And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm going to walk us through what the learning curve looks like. So if you can all see this, the learning curve, you're going to either master this similar to your schedule, or you're going to quit. And what I mean by that is there is a sense of urgency. If you have not mastered the learning curve in 6 months, 9 months from now, and you're still unsure, you're not going to want to be here. It's not that you're going to quit because you're weak and lack grit. It's that it's not worth it to you. Why would it be? So I need you to understand that. Now, in this mastering of the learning curve, one, again, it doesn't happen until you master your schedule. We can't talk about beating the learning curve if you don't know how to show up yet. So you have to master your schedule first. Then you come here, and the goal of mastering the learning curve is to become competent. Not necessarily good yet. Good is going to come when we master production. That's the next challenge after this. But the goal is to become competent with the sales process. This is your workflow, scripts, objections, sales, our reporting process. We want you to get competent with this stuff. Now, what are you going to be facing and dealing with in the learning curve? And this is the stuff, I've got a couple guests with me that we're going to have this conversation. The stuff you're dealing with is fear of the phones for a lot of people, fear of incompetence. What if they ask you questions you don't know? The state gave you a license doesn't mean you have any idea what you're talking about. Your ego doesn't like being bad at stuff. You're an adult. In your adult world, you're good at what you do. Then you come here, you're not good at this. This is new. You're going to struggle with that. You're going to put the system on a really short leash. Do these leads really work? Do these scripts really work? Does this mentorship really work? Is this really worth it? The numbers aren't going to seem like they're adding up to you. You're going to be spending money. You're not making money. You're going to be making dials. You're not setting appointments. You're going to be looking at these numbers, feeling like it doesn't add up. You're going to start thinking successful people must be lucky because you're doing some stuff and it ain't landing. So those people that are winning, they must be getting lucky. You're going to deal with the stress of working for free. For a lot of you, this is your first foray into 1099 independently contracted sales. This is your first foray into professional independence without a boss. And so all of a sudden, instead of getting paid just to show up, you're not getting paid until you deliver results. That is a challenge in this season. And then establishing your ratios. Now, I want to talk about ratios. You're going to make outbound dials of those. Some people are going to answer. Of the ones that answer, you're going to set some appointments. Of the appointments you set, you're going to run some because they're going to show up. Of the ones you run, you're going to close some and submit some applications. And of the applications you submit, you're going to issue some policies. The goal isn't to master these ratios in the learning curve. That comes in the next step. The goal is to establish them, to get curious and figure out what your ratios are. Now, if you, I'm talking to you, all of you here, if you have not yet made 1,000 outbound dials to get comfortable with the phones, comfortable with the scripts, if you've not yet run 20 appointments, if you've not yet sold 6 policies, if you're still confused by funnel or CRM, if you're still scared to buy leads, and if you still think success is lucky, no worries and no judgment. You just have not yet mastered the learning curve. I just need you to know this is your mastery challenge here. If you've not done these things, no worries. I just want you to know here's the problem. Now, when you've done this, when you've mastered this, you will have made 6 sales to leads, seen that process through. You're going to recognize lead spend is not scary to you anymore. You're going to be proficient with funnel, our CRM. You're going to be confident with the sales scripts. You're going to start asking your mentor for more challenge, and you're going to move to working digital leads. This is what happens when you've mastered the learning curve. This is where we want to get you so that you can move to the next challenge, which is really getting good at sales. If this is getting competent with the process, the next step is getting good at sales. We can't get good at this until we've made 6 sales, stopped getting scared of lead spend, got proficient with our CRM, got confident with the script, started asking for more challenge and working digital leads. This is this phase in the challenge, and I've got 2 really good friends that I'm here to talk about getting through this mastery challenge. Mr. Andrew Jimenez, I'm going to kick this to you and just let you introduce yourself, brother.
Yeah, guys, my name is Andrew Jimenez. I'm direct to Mr. Jacob Pogue and very grateful and glad to be so. Got started with Symmetry. Goodness, it'll be 10 years coming up here next February. So it's fact that it's like I've spent a third of my life here already is one thing. Guys that came from the pretty much stocking boxes for a warehouse and nuts and bolts company for a mining company, and I made 1,500 bucks a month. Never done sales, never done insurance, never done anything like this before. And it's turned into a career now that I can say is over 10 years and just so much more on the way.
Love that. Gabby, I'm going to kick it over to you. Just let you give a quick intro as well.
Yeah, Gabby Roethelisberger. I am direct to Sarah Pappas and Marshall Wayland. Super blessed to be so. I was a jock. I was an athlete all my life, and I had one job coming out of, playing softball in college, and it was a sales job. And I realized really quickly, it just wasn't going to provide the life that I wanted to live. And so I got curious and I started researching, and I kept coming across financial services and the insurance industry. And I was like, gross, no way. But I kept coming across it. And I'm so thankful that I found, Symmetry, and I got to have my start in insurance here. I've been with Symmetry for 8 years now. Got my license in May of 2017. So it's fun. Andrew and I are both, we're on this call. We've been here a long time. We were here actually before we went virtual. So this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, you guys are the old analog, drive to homes, show up in person. Had to really, you guys almost had to go through 2 learning curves.
Yeah.
One is like learning one sales system, and then, oh, time out. You got a whole new system to learn going virtual.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, let's dive in and go right back to the origin story then. Andrew, I've heard yours, and those of us that have been around for a while have heard your story. But walk us through starting. And again, for this call, we're going to assume the schedule is down, you're all in, you figured out how, when, and where to show up. So what did you do when you started? What did that starting? Because you didn't come here with a sales background. Walk us through what starting looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my first 4 weeks, and I think that's the simplest way like that I can really illustrate just what I had to do to get better here. Because I mean, I came from a background, Jim, where I didn't really have any sort of experience in this thing. So it was pretty audacious of me to think that like, oh, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna have instant success. I'm gonna be able to do exactly what I wanted. But I still thought that way. I still thought I was like, oh, I'm charismatic. I'll figure this out. People generally like me. That I was quickly reprimanded and shown that, oh, the real world doesn't work just the way you think it works in your head. So I got into this business because I was looking for mentorship. Jim, I was coming out, I was a college dropout. I've never made more than 1,500 bucks in my life. I have $600 in rent, $600 in student loans, and 100 and something dollars left over for food, gas, electricity, you name it. Got started in this business just like all y'all, filled out that packet, and then they tell me, oh, by the way, you'll want to make sure that you go ahead and have about $250 a week in leads. And by the way, we got a national conference that's happening in about 3 weeks. Make sure you make it out to that. And I'm thinking to myself, Gabby, like, well, one, I appreciate that, but I don't know where you guys get your money from because I'm over here like my bank account was overdrafted today. I'll pull it up. But what I did kind of realize is like, okay, well, if all the people that are successful go to that thing, fantastic. But I mean, I don't really have any extra money. Can I maybe get started, Jim, just helping out some people that I knew and maybe make some money that way and use my license to do it? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So I said, okay. So the first lesson I kind of learned is just this, is if you don't have the resources, you just need to become resourceful. Learn how to solve the problems, learn to create the solutions to the problems that are right in front of you. Because here's the thing, guys, we go out there and we help people that, are struggling or have no idea kind of what's next. It's our job to help them make sure they have a financial solution for their family. We got to be good at solving our own financial solutions too. Okay.
Mm.
So I first got started, kept it super simple, helping out some people I know. Sold 3 policies in that week to basically help fund this business. And it took $1,000, put it towards leads, took $500, put it towards the conference. And so I'm getting started and I'm buying that $250 a week per leads, get me about, I think like 45 to 55 leads, somewhere in there. And as I'm getting going, I said, okay, I'm going to hit the phones. I'm going to start dialing. My first week in the field, I made 180 something dials. I spoke to probably like 40 something people and I booked 3 appointments. And those 3 appointments, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fired up for. I go to my first house, Gabby, knock on that door, nobody's answering. Knock again, nothing. Call the guy. He says, "Oh, I'm 1 second, Jim. I'm in the back." I waited 5 minutes. That should have told me everything. When I called him one more time, he said, "Son, I'm standing right here in front of the doorway. There ain't nobody outside." And I looked down at my lead and I pulled the biggest rookie mistake of all rookies that you can imagine was I showed up to the wrong client's house. So, lesson number 2, get your calendar under control, like we already said need to happen. So I come into this now. I'm going to this conference, Jim, and I think this is the big piece about the learning curve I want everyone to really listen in on. Is I was going to this conference thinking to myself, like, man, I've booked 3 appointments. I went through the rejection. I thought I was doing it right. Like, I didn't expect to necessarily be easy, but I didn't necessarily think that I was going to have zero success, not even get in the door with anybody. So I'm going to conference and I'm thinking to myself, I need one thing that I can walk away from this thing that will allow me to actually apply come Monday and make this thing work. So that came when our owner, Casey Watkins, went on stage, Gabby. And he basically said, like, hey, guys, this is a business of metrics. He said, if you want to win here, it's simple. You need to focus on being able to make one more dial, to book one more appointment, to go see one more family, to go write one more policy, because you can't control people not picking up the phone, not being there, not showing up, talking to their mother, brother, sister, their dog about the policy. He said, but you can control you and the metrics. And he says, if you focus there, you will win. And I said, perfect. So I took those 4 cornerstones and I started going through and I turned all those little bullet points into check mark boxes, rolling through them. And I said, okay, belief, I got done. Massive action says 400 to 500 dials and 12 to 15 appointments. So I was like, oh, shoot, I did 180 and I got 3. I realized for me and where I was at, if some people can come in here and they can play from the 50-yard line and score a touchdown. Some people can do it from the 10, some people can do it from the 20. The stadiums in Arizona. Andrew was in New York City right now, and he had to figure out how to get to Arizona in the first place. So, guys, for me, it was simply that, is that I just came in and I said, all right, I'm going to have to triple to quadruple my activity to bring myself to average. Week 2, I came in, I made 1,016 dials. I got to 4 appointments. Well, I'm sorry, 750 dials week 2. I got to 4 appointments. Third week, I got to 1,016 dials, got to 9 appointments. By my fourth week in the business, I was able to make 120 something dials, booked 12 appointments, and made my first sale in 27 days, which then led to Jim. Made 1,500 bucks my first month, 6 grand the month after that, 8 grand the month after that, 13,000 the month after that. And we can break down how I was able to do that in a bit.
Well, I think a lot of the reason you were able to do that, Andrew, is you were coachable. Like you heard Casey, you're like, oh, that's what I should do. You pulled up the 4 cornerstones and your keys to success. You're like, that's what I should do. I went the complete opposite direction. When I was here the first time, Jacob Pogue told me I need to make a lot of dials, and I'm like, I'm older. I don't need to do that. That's cute for like young people starting at the bottom, but like I've done some things. Y'all don't know me. And so instead of dialing myself, I'm going to hire 3 call centers to dial for me. And guess what? That didn't work, nor did it help me get through the learning curve. And so I quit and had to like come back again, humble, tail between my legs. And the second time, actually start picking up the phone, and we can dive into more of that. But Gabby, why don't you walk us through what the learning curve was like for you? You mastered your schedule. Now, what are you doing now that you're showing up?
Yeah. So, real quick, in my first 3 months, I wrote 3 apps for $3,000. So I was not exactly crushing it, but I had not yet been to my first conference. That's why I think it's hilarious, Andrew, that we have similar stories of we got ourselves to our first conference and then the floodgates opened, and that coachability piece is massive because you can go to those things and not take anything away and not actually implement. But I did. So 3 apps for 3,000 in 3 months, go to conference August 2017. And my next month in September, I wrote 17 grand. So what changed, right? Like we talked about, schedule has been, we know where to be. We don't have to be told. We kind of get the gist of this kind of puzzle, right? But now we're putting the pieces of the puzzle to our own business and what the learning curve looks like for us. And for me, that truly, and some of you may not like this because you may have already heard it, but for me, it was more activity and more investment in leads. That was literally the only difference between me after conference and me before. Probably one other thing, my belief, right? It's the first cornerstone for a reason. You have to have the belief in what you're doing and what you're selling and how you're showing up. But a lot of times, Jim, people will want their learning curve to be something else that it just isn't, right? Like you wanted to, like, that's not for me. Like, I've been doing sales forever. I'm not doing that. People want to book their first appointment, right? In their first dial session. I get the want, but it's not about what we want. It's about the work we're going to put in to get past it. And the hard part is everybody's learning curve looks different. Like it just does. We don't know what level of commitment, consistency, coachability, grit. We don't know that the level of all of those things that you're coming in with. Therefore, your learning curve is going to look so different. It just is. And that's why, right? Like he did 1,000 dials and then the next week he did even less than that and booked 12 appointments, right? It had something to do with investment and activity for sure. But a lot of times people want to shortcut the shortcut. And that's what I was doing, Jim, before I went to my first conference. I was thinking, I had the ego of like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be better at this. I'm an athlete. I'm good at everything I do. Right. And then you get like slapped in the face, punched in the throat by, hey, you're going to actually have to work your tail off to get through this learning curve. And everybody's, work looks different. But that's kind of what it was, is I just was not putting in the work, and then I was.
Yeah, I use this metaphor. And Andrew, you brought up a football one. I'm going to give you all a baseball one. And then I'm going to have you guys run the bases with me. And so for me, in this baseball metaphor, first base is literally just picking up the phone. It's just making the dials, finding the courage to make the dials. For a lot of people, that's difficult. Then you're going to be making dials, but not setting appointments. And that's going to be second base, is learning how to bypass the first layer of resistance, get to the heart of the call, and set the appointment. Then you're going to be like, oh, look at me, I'm setting appointments, but they're not going to show, which is going to be third base, and learning the art of locking that appointment down so they actually show up. Then you're going to be running appointments and be like, this is awesome, except you're not closing them, and they need to think about it. And that's going to be home, is actually closing that so that you're making sales, protecting families, and getting paid. So before we can even make dials, though, there's nothing worse for a salesperson than having nobody to call. So we're going to need to get ourselves some people to call. So Andrew, talk to me about leads, lead spend, overcoming the fear of investing in something that has no guarantee, especially when your skill set isn't there. What do you recommend? What did you do? Walk me through getting leads to call.
Yeah, I mean, very simply, I've always coached, especially in the beginning, it's about a 3 to 4x ROI based off of what you're trying to make. So for instance, like when I came in here, I was like 250 to 300 bucks per week is what I was searching for. Now, obviously, if I spend that, I should be making 750 to 1,000 bucks, right? Now, the one factor is the skill set piece kind of kicks in. But here's the thing, is like one of the pieces that you mentioned, like getting to first base or just getting the activity in, but it's also that you have the at-bats there that help kind of generate the level of skill set that's going to get you to where you need to go. So in the beginning, I'm recommending 250 to 300. Okay. Then once you get to the point of, you mentioned earlier about like 6 sales, you sat with about 20 people. I recommend scaling up your lead investment to the point of what you're actually trying to aspire to make, which for most people is about $10,000 generally. Okay. So they can make you at bad town 10 or profit 8, and they feel very comfortable with 100 grand plus of income. Well, if you're more, it's very simple. We just take what we want to make. We're going to divide out the numbers so that we can actually do it. And we can break that down if you'd like me to. But very simply though, I always recommend 250 to 300. Get to 20 appointments sat, get to eventually 6 sales, then scale up to about $500. And then you can really start scaling to some of the crazy numbers where, people really want an idea of what they can make. There is no limitation here, Jim, that you can go from making 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 12,000. But if you want to start making $12,000 per week, it's literally just taking those numbers, working them backwards, and you do the same thing.
All right. So 250 bucks a week. Talk to the people in this room that are like, Andrew, I don't have 250 bucks a week. Like, you're out of here. I came here because I need money. I didn't come here because I have money.
Then, you've got to get resourceful, right? Like, here's the thing is like, you can't accept the excuse that you don't have the money to buy leads or you don't have the money to invest in your business if you're trying to start a business. You might as well just say you'll permanently close, liquidating everything at this point, right? You've got to start thinking to yourself, okay, are there ways I can help people around me? I kept it super simple. They said, well, can I help out people I know? They said, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, Gabby, hey, do you already have life insurance? She said, great. Yeah, maybe we can save you some money. So Jim, do you already have life insurance? He said, nope. Great. Maybe we can either help you reduce your debt, or number two, maybe you like what we got. Kept it super simple, was able to chat with 10 people, and I actually only got sat with like 4 or 5 of them, and it helped with 3 applications. All simple, easy, final expense, mortgage protection. I didn't write nothing over $85 a month at that time, right? So I would say start there. The next thing is finding a way that maybe you can just drum up an extra 1,500 to 2 grand to be able to launch your business. Maybe that is making sure that you can sell some things, have a quick garage sale. Find the things that have been sitting in your house for a while that you have not done, throw them on Facebook Marketplace, and let's start to liquidate some of that stuff and say, I want to take these things I've barely used for a year and throw them on and go from there. We just bought our house, and it's crazy to think, Jim, I came from living in my grandma's back room, and my desk was one of those old brown TV dinner pop-up stands, you know what I'm talking about? And I had my laptop on top of that, by the way, had to be plugged into the wall for it to even turn on. So it was basically a desktop at that point. And I had my laptop and my leads. And I went from my grandma's back bedroom, sleeping on a leather futon, to now having this house and everything. And I'm like, I watched my wife liquidate some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, man, it is so much easier, I think, if people really think about how to go ahead and get more income for your leads. So if they don't have anything, that's where you got to start.
Yeah, Gabby, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add something. So one thing to understand about this learning curve, because that's what we're talking about, is how to get through this and, not having money for leads. And so my question to someone who says, well, I can't do $250 to $300 a week. Okay, how much can you do? Right? Because I always break it down like this, right? If we were talking about opening up an ice cream franchise and you were opening up your ice cream shop, of course, you are going to invite your family and friends on opening day to come buy some ice cream. Of course,
Yep.
right? Like you're going to tell everybody you have an ice cream shop that's opening, but you can't expect your family and friends to come in every single day and every single week and buy some ice cream and keep your business afloat. And so the question is, all right, you can't do 250 to 300. What can you do? And understand this about getting through this phase of your business, of this learning curve, is it's either you have time or you have money to invest. And so if you don't have the 250 to 300 standard to invest in a week, and maybe it's 150 that you can do consistently over 8 weeks, then do that and understand that you're going to hear no more often than someone who's investing the 250 to 300 on, X amount of leads, right? You're going to hear no more often, and it's going to take you longer to book your appointments, but that's okay because you're able to get your business off the ground with what you have. But everything, Andrew, that you were saying of like getting scrappy, and I call it getting scrappy. It's like, if you really want this, get scrappy. There are so many stories of people doing all sorts of things, right? Selling purses, selling things on Facebook, driving Uber to get their business off the ground because you just need a little bit of time, right? I like to have it an 8-week mindset. You're going to invest that, but we're going to have an 8-week mindset because you could make your first sale in week 4. And then you could make 3 more sales in week 7. And then you could have a 5K week in week 8, right? We don't know what that's going to look like for you. We don't know what your learning curve is. We talked about that. Everybody's is different. But the point is you have to have a mindset longer than a week. Okay, I have my $250, Andrew, for this week and this week only. All right, what about next week? Are you gonna be closed for business? Right. And so like that's kind of the mindset that I just wanted to kind of share to think about. Is this is like a, I say 8 to 12 week mindset of I am doing massive action. I'm investing in my business. I'm staying consistent. I'm staying coachable. I'm staying committed in this 8 to 12 weeks so that I'm out of this learning curve stat.
It's really good. Now you touch on massive action. Okay. And we've talked about lead spend. So they're getting scrappy. They're selling to warm market. They're figuring it out. They've got some money. They bought some leads. Now they got to pick up the phone and dial, Gabby. And some people, that sounds terrible to them. Well, talk to people about the numbers of dial, like how many dials should they be making? What does that workflow look like? What should they expect? Warm, nice, kind, lovely people that are so happy they called. And then lastly, how to get over the fear of the phones, because a lot of people, that's really scary. So walk me through those people that are like, I got the leads now. I got to go to first base and pick up this phone. What do they expect? What should they look for?
Yeah, I love this. So, back in the day, we would dial from our actual cell phone. And we would have people stamp like a card, right? Or like stamp and write ATM on the back of their phone. Now we have Funnel. We're all virtual. We're all fancy now. And so you don't actually have to pick up this phone. You can click a button, which is just wild how just simple and easy it is to actually pick up the phone now. But truly believe that this is an ATM that says you can make as much money as you want, regardless of background, regardless of experience, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of any of that. It says you can make as much money as you want here. And that's what attracted me to this business, is it's a level playing field. And I'm all about that. So picking up the phone, right, or clicking a button on Funnel starts with having a reason to. right? Like you have to have a reason to, whether that's family, need money, you know, all of the things, right? Like we talk about, you have to have a why to be doing this business. But sometimes that's not going to be good enough, Jim. You really want to succeed in this business, but you're still having trouble. And, you know, you guys may be able to add on to this, but was just my experience, is eventually you're going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired of being in the same place. And it's going to cause change in you to want to change what you're doing. And so, you know, you're going to pick up the phone. And I have always, whenever I coach on the phones, Jim, it starts with the number one rule, and that is don't be a weenie. Don't be a weenie. Like, don't be a weenie. It's just not that big of a deal to make phone calls. Like, we are not digging ditches here. We are not out in the heat of Houston, Texas. That's where I am. Like, it's just not that difficult. So don't give it this big giant thing in your mind, because it's just not. We're talking to people. But you may run into some people who are maybe having a bad day, right? You know, whatever, you may. My golden rule for that, and what I coach people to do, is when you get off that phone, I want you to dial the next number. I want you to click the button as fast as humanly possible for your next phone call. Because what happens is, Jim, people want to get through this learning curve, but they want to dissect every little thing that happens, right? Like they have a bad call. They want to sit and think about it, and they want to like fester in it, right? I'm telling you, don't fester in it. You're going to run into those people. Dial the next number as fast as humanly possible so that you don't think about it. Because what we're doing when we're taking a stack of leads, right, or a list of leads in our funnel, we are finding the hot and readies, right? The hot and readies that we're going to help and book appointments with and help this week. There's always going to be those people that maybe you don't get a hold of, or you know, you can't get a hold of, and they're going to go on for next week. You're going to follow up with them. But the hot and readies are there. They're there. How are you going to fight to find them? Because make no mistake, this learning curve is a fight. It's a fight. You are putting on your armor, putting on your helmet every single day, fighting through this learning curve. This is the toughest part of this business. And this is where people lose out on their potential the most. And it's the saddest thing to see. Because on the other side of all of those dials, on the other side of Andrew Jimenez making 1,000+ dials each week after conference, is the Andrew Jimenez that we get to see today, right? Yeah. Chills thinking of who you would be without having done that. And so put your armor on and get prepared and fight that fear by being in community with others who are doing the same thing. That's 100% crucial in this learning curve.
Yeah, I'm going to kick this to you in a second, Andrew, but I want to hit on a couple things. When I came here that first time and hired those call centers, I was afraid of the phone. And being a guy, like, I don't know, I'm not afraid of nothing. It wasn't that I'm afraid of the phone. I was afraid of feeling incompetent. I was afraid of putting myself in a position where I wasn't confident. So it wasn't like I was being a weenie. It was a very real, tangible fear that lots of people are afraid of. I got over it, guys, by straight up finding something bigger to be afraid of. You want to know what was scarier than looking incompetent? Losing my house. Having to go to my wife and say, hey, sorry, babe. We're not going to make our mortgage payment this month because I'm too afraid to get on the phones. So if you're afraid, just own your fear. Own it, embrace it, recognize it. Find something bigger to be afraid of. And then recognize when you pick up the phone, just because everyone you're going to call requested a call does not mean that they recognize your name, your phone number, your voice. They're going to treat you like a telemarketer. They don't know you. And I was calling someone on Memorial Day and she flipped out, why are you calling on a holiday? And to Gabby's point, I got off that phone and thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't be calling on a holiday. And I almost let that one person's reaction dictate my business strategy. Instead, I was smarter at that point in the business a few months. I went right back to the phones. Before I got off the phone, I found someone that was so grateful I called because they were home. You're going to be really tempted to draw conclusions from small sample sizes. Don't do that. All right, Andrew. You
Yeah.
hit massive action on the phones. Talk to us about people just getting to first base.
Yeah, I'd love to just illustrate exactly what you guys just said, like with my own story, because I think it will help kind of people see this learning curve and how you can either drag it out and slow is painful, fast is fun. Trust me, okay? But I really want people to understand this. Activity is the Advil of this business. Results will be the Robitussin. You'll get rid of that cough real quick, trust me. When it comes down to it, you need to just know that. So yeah, we mentioned my dials. Week 1 was 180 something. Week 2, 750. Week 3, 1016. Week 4, 126. If you do the math on it real fast, I made 2,000 dials effectively in a 3-week period. Okay. If people just do 250 dials a week, it's going to take you 10 weeks to get through that same learning curve. When I got started in this, and I was sitting down, I was making phone calls, I was booking appointments, and I realized like, oh man, like I'm not even worried about trying to make sales yet if I can't get more people to actually book appointments with me. So I would say 90% of this battle, my friends, is learning and memorizing your phone script to a T. You need to be able to have this thing in front of you, flip it upside down, and be able to say it near word for word in your own verbatim in language without saying what as soon as something else is said, you are completely hitched and you sound, and stuttering. Like you got to get rid of those things. And it comes with memorization. Take the 7-7-7 plan. Okay. You're going to go ahead and write down your entire script 7 times. You're going to read it 7 times and you're going to say it out loud 7 times. I promise you, you can do that inside of a weekend. You will have your entire script memorized and be able to say it with a fluidity that sounds normal and not robotic or choppy. Is everyone following me so far?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Thing that I did was this. The next part of it all is learning to really handle your objections. You're going to get, I call them like the big 5. Okay, I'm not interested. I'm too busy. My wife ain't home. So what else? I'm already taken care of. I've already seen it. Too expensive, right? So like you're going to get these. So if you know it's gonna be happening, know what to say. Do you see where it kind of goes? That knowing what to say is literally 90% of the battle. How you say it is just those tonality and mastery that comes along the way. But you can greatly increase your level to go from first base to second base by just figuring that out. So here's what I kind of did, Jim, is I basically took all of my memorization, hammered it out. Okay. Then I took the objections and I really focused in on becoming a master objection handler. And it came to stuff like this. Every time I would wake up, Gabby, I had my phone script taped to my mirror. And so I would brush my teeth in the morning, I'd read my phone script. I'd brush my teeth at night, I'd read my phone script. I took sticky notes, I put them all around the house. Every time I flipped on a light, the light would come on, it said already taken care of on that sticky note. I had to give my phone script on the objection right then and there. And then, I'd open the fridge, Jim, and the orange juice would come out. Boom, there's already taken care of or not interested. Okay, I had to give it then. So to create these environments that made me say, okay, well, boom, here it is. Can I drop it at the drop of a dime? So here's how the level of expectation that I have of your memorization. Gabby, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your fire alarm goes off. Bo is screaming. Her baby Bo is screaming in the background. The fire alarm water things are sprinkling down. The dog is barking. The Fred looks over at you and he says, "What should we do?" And you are blindfolded, hopping on one foot. And I said, if you gave me your phone script, you could give it like a drop of a dime like that. That memorization carried me to go from the 2,000 dials in those 3 weeks to by the 4th week, I only had to make 126 dials to get 12 appointments. So how did I get 2,000 dials? Week 1, I booked 3 appointments. Week 2, I booked 4 appointments. Week 3, I booked 9 appointments. 16 dials in 3 weeks. I'm sorry, 16 appointments in 3 weeks to 12 appointments in 1 week. It's by condensing that time frame and really focusing on developing the memorization.
Yeah, man, so much of that in taking your profession seriously, right? Like you want an excellent lawyer, you want an excellent pilot, you want an excellent doctor. So be the professional that you want to do business with. Know your craft. You know, I have this personality type. I don't know if any of y'all relate to me, but I cannot impose myself on people. I need to be invited. So for me, being on the phone, the minute I sense resistance, I gutturally want to back off. And I watch new agents do that constantly. They get on the phone, they get any of those objections, and instead of mastering the handling of the objection, they use it as their cue to exit the conversation. I'm so sorry to bother you. And then they're dialing, but they're not setting appointments. And so I learned over time, it was about 6 months in, I saw at first resistance was my cue to leave the conversation and say, oh, they weren't interested. 6 months in, my call didn't start till I got that resistance. That became the game. I was going to introduce myself. They weren't going to listen to me. They were going to give me resistance. I wasn't going to listen to them. Now that we each got that off our chest, now the call can start. And that just takes that time and practice. So Gabby, walk us through, we're trying to get to second base here. You're a softball player, trying to get to second base, setting these appointments. So walk us through the stuff you've learned to go from, okay, they're making the dials. They're even talking to people. How do we connect the dots from talking to people to setting appointments?
So there truly is nothing like having enough activity on the board. Sometimes people want to take kind of small data sets and say, it's not working. I'm not booking any appointments. And that's I would say the biggest obstacle that people have to get over, right? Is having enough massive action to even start having a conversation, right? We're establishing ratios. And so if you aren't booking any appointments, something's off, right? You're either not dialing enough and not talking to enough people. And then if you're talking to enough people, but the ratios aren't matching based on the leads that you're dialing, it's time for a conversation. It's time for a conversation. It's time to stop to sign up for some live dials so that you can get better. And you know, the fear of kind of signing up for live dials or signing up for recording yourself for your mentor to hear, that fear is just elongating your learning curve. And I will watch people allow their ego prevent them from getting through this learning curve quickly, and they suffer longer than they have to. And that's just not necessary. So if you aren't booking the appointments, let's make sure something's going on, but don't go to your mentor, Jim. Like, I'm not going to go to you and I've made 150 dials and I haven't booked any appointments. And I'm going to say, Jim, I'm not booking any appointments. It's not time yet to start thinking that way. You haven't put in the work enough to even talk to enough people. But usually when people aren't booking appointments on the phones, they haven't mastered the script like Andrew was talking about, and they haven't gotten through those, you know, first objections that they're just going to naturally hit to even get to the end of their script. I mean, it's going to feel like, man, I'm never getting to the end of my script. You're starting and people hang up and, you know, all of that. And my kind of the golden rule of symmetry is staying even keeled, right? Like low and slow on the phones in the beginning so that you can get through that first part into the second half of booking appointments. So now you're booking the appointments and they have to show. I don't know if that's third base.
That's third base. So let's go to third base, Gabby.
That's third base. So now, like, yes, I'm booking the appointments. I've started to make enough activity. I've figured out, you know, my contact to dial ratio, right? Like I've upped that. Maybe I've done a few things. I've gotten some coaching. I'm booking the appointments and I feel on top of the world, right? I booked my first appointment and they don't show up. Right? Like if I could put a percentage on how many new agents' first appointments don't show up, I would put it at like 80 to 90%. Because what you're counting as an appointment sometimes isn't actually an appointment. And then what you're counting.
Stop right there and dive right in. When people are calling appointments not appointments, what makes an appointment and what makes what they're calling an appointment not one?
So we call those squishy appointments. Squishy. And that sounds probably something like this, Jim, like, you know, so I have what I need. I'm going to work these up. You know, what time's going to be best for me to get back with you, Jim?
I'm around all day tomorrow. Like you can call anytime.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll kind of get this worked up and like would 4 o'clock work or
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm here all day. Just call whenever.
okay. Okay. I'll go ahead and yeah, I'll work on this and I'll get that done. All right. Thanks. Have a good day. Right? Like that was the squishiest, most horrible booked appointment ever.
You think that
Because
guy's gonna answer at 4 o'clock when she actually calls? Not
no,
one chance.
no, because I wasn't clear. Right? Like if you can write something like on a post-it in your office, clarity is kind. And this goes back to Jim, what you were talking about, how sometimes people feel like they're being bossy or mean or invasive. No, you're being clear. And clarity comes when you say, hey, Jim, I'm meeting with about 30 families this week. I have, a ton of families to help. So I'm going to be helping families this afternoon and tomorrow. So which day works better for you? And then I can let you know what I have. All right, tonight works better? Okay. So after what time are you and your wife Sonia home together?
Well, she's running kids around in school. She'll definitely be home by 5.
Okay, so after 5. All right, let me see what I have. I can squeeze you guys in at 6:15. And then my last spot at 7:30. Which works better for you out of those two?
We actually eat dinner early, so 7:30 we'd be done with dinner.
Okay. So I'm gonna hold that spot for you guys. Like I said, I meet with 30 families in between 2 days, and I'm working today and tomorrow. So is there any reason you think that time won't work for you guys at 7:30?
No, I mean we're home, we're doing dinner. I mean we're definitely around.
Okay. Yeah, and when you say around, like I'm gonna give you a call, you're gonna be able to answer and kind of sit down. I usually have you write a couple things down, so y'all will be able to sit down and do that.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So I will hold that spot for you guys. And I'll put you down. Right. So I could keep going further down the tie down, but I directed him on what's best for my schedule. I directed him on, okay, after what time works best for you guys. So I'm not shooting in the dark and I'm saying, hey, does 4 o'clock work? No. Does 5 o'clock work? No. Right. Like when you start playing that game, that's a squishy appointment. But when you direct them down your funnel of how you book appointments, that is a strong appointment. And so that's when you start playing the game of how do people show up to my appointments? I said this, they didn't show up. All right, let me switch this. That's when you get curious and you listen to live dials and you hear how people are tying down the appointments and then you just don't let up. A lot of people let up on what they think the client's thinking or, oh, I'm bothering them. People let up and then they have the heartache on the day of the appointment and they don't answer. Right? That's where this learning curve gets tough because you're setting yourself up for heartache when you aren't standing strong in the tie down and standing strong in booking that appointment. And again, that comes with massive action, doing it enough, having enough calls, practicing that tie down to get good at it.
We were just, I mean, loosely role playing there, like not even
Very
officially,
loosely.
loosely role playing. I felt a pressure shift the minute you said, are you going to be in a position to take the call? I will usually have people write things. I immediately went in my mind from, yeah, we're around to, okay, yes. Like, so, like, even in a role play,
You
that,
were going to say yes to me.
yeah, no, that I felt that. That was actually really cool. Andrew, do you want to know the number? I want people to hear this. The number one reason that affects whether people are going to show up or not show up to your appointment. Do you know that number one reason?
Whether they committed to it.
Nope. Totally depends on what they're doing right then at that time. And if what they happen to be doing at that time is cooler in their mind than talking to someone they don't know about life insurance on the phone.
Right.
I learned this straight up. I was in the market for a smoker, like a pellet smoker for food, right? I filled out the form for this one brand I had my eye on. The guy calls me immediately. I'm laying in bed with Sonia. She's sleeping next to me. I can't take this call. So I don't take this call. He calls me the next morning. I'm literally in the office working, making me own. I decline his call. I can picture him going to his boss and going, these leads don't work. I'm like, I actually want this grill. It hasn't been a good time. So finally I get on the phone with him. He calls me a third time. I get on the phone. We talk about some things. He's like, hey, I've got to work up some options because what I was asking for was right between two different models. So he's like, I'm going to work up some options. Can we get on the phone? Yep, totally free. Can I call you at this time? He locked it down, man. I knew I had this appointment with him. It was not lack of knowledge. But you know what? Some friends showed up. Unexpected. They had wine. They came over. Now, was I going to leave wine with my friends hanging out to talk about a freaking grill that Sonia didn't know I was going to probably buy? Was I going to leave that environment? No. So did I ghost that appointment? 100%. Was I still in the market for the grill? Yes. I need you to understand that. Okay? Need you to get that. All right, Andrew.
Don't take it personally. That's what I hear. Don't take it personally. You don't know what's going on the other side of that lead. If you get a no-show, just follow up. The fortune is in the follow-up. That's what I hear from your story, Jim.
100%. I was in the market. I'm ghosting him on calls. I'm ghosting the appointment we set. I'm still in the market. He's going to whine to his manager about the leads. He's going to say this stuff. I know the game. But I'm the client. I'm the customer. I want it. Right? All right, Andrew, locking the appointment down.
Yeah, y'all said it. I think that we have really strong trainings that are structured like how to do it. But here's, I guess, where I want to illustrate all of it. To surmise to this point is you're going to now have ratios at this point, like Gabby said. You know how many contacts it's going to take you to book one appointment. You know how many appointments it's going to take to get one to show. So now at this point, this is where the amplification needs to happen. Guys, I was atrocious at this business. If you think you were worse than me at this thing, I would challenge that. It was so much rejection. I was very curious. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to go back to stock and box in the warehouse because I can't get anybody to book for the amount of dials that I was doing. However, once I started to realize that, oh, I can dial any lead and I can get them to book an appointment after I get the fourth contact. Oh, okay. So I just need to have 16 contacts for 4 appointments. All right. It's just a game. I don't care. I started writing on my leads, Gabby. NI for not already taken care of. AT for already taken care of. NI for not interested. And I knew what they were going to say, Jim. So when they dropped that thing, I was like, Jim, that's probably exactly why I'm calling that. You just get able to roll straight to it. But once I figured out my ratios, then I could start to see, okay, now I know how I need to get to 10 sits eventually. I know I need to get to 12 appointments right now. Let's get to 48 contacts. And then I can get to 6 appointments shown, 8 appointments shown, and actually scale up my development.
And here's the thing I just want to add. Sorry, Jim. Here's the thing is you are going to improve. Like that's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like you're doing all this work to learn your metrics, but your metrics are going to get better. Period. As you continue to do the work and get better and do all the things we're talking about. That's what happened with Andrew in week 4 or 5, I think it was. It took him less dials to book 12. So you're going to get better. And what I see all the time is, people will try and like go from first to third and they want to focus on, appointments showing when they book 2 appointments. It doesn't work that way. There's not enough metrics. It's too small of a data set. It's not allowed. Home, first, second, third, back to home.
T-ball. This ain't T-ball.
This is not T-ball.
Great analogy. You're going to figure that one out.
Yeah. All right. So let me throw some rapid fire things at you that I see new agents that they've got their schedule. Now they're in the learning curve, right? And one of the first things I see people think, sometimes, especially if they have a sales background, it's like, well, if I'm going to sell stuff, I need to know what I'm selling. So they start diving into agent guides, researching companies, policies. Andrew, give me a quick hit. What do you say to those people that get lost in research?
I mean, here's my main thing. If you haven't figured out how to get to 12 to 15 appointments, then you don't need to go that route. Like, I didn't focus on anything about my presentation until I could get to 12 appointments consistently.
Yep.
Okay. I kept it simple. I focused on one carrier. I focused on two products, and that was it. I had Mutual of Omaha's term, and I had at the time their living promise wasn't really available to us. So I had I'm sorry, I had American Amicable, Dignity Solutions, and UHL, and that was it. Just kept it uberly simple, so that way I could focus on two products and focus on booking more appointments.
And I'll tell people when you're brand new, your only job is to dial to set appointments. We'll get ready for the appointment together. And that way you'll know which product, and then you go learn that product when it's relevant to an appointment you're going to run. So you're not just learning it in theory, you're learning it for a purpose. You want to touch on that, Gabby, or can I kick you the next?
No, it's paralysis by analysis.
Yep.
And it's just you fear of putting in the work, fear of getting on the phones. Like that's what that is. Hypothetical appointments equals hypothetical commissions. It's a waste of time. Your time is better served hopping on the phones right now and booking as many appointments as you can.
Yep, that's really good. We're getting questions in the comments about funnel. When do you move people to funnel? What is funnel? Why should they invest in funnel? What does funnel cost? Is it worth the cost? Hit me on funnel, Gabby.
$59.99 a month is the subscription for funnel. And I can tell you, as someone who did it old school and was good at doing it old school, right? Like I got it done, right? But the funnel for those that have no idea what it is, it's an engagement tool. It's a CRM. It's ways for you to engage with your leads through dialing, texting, emailing, sorting, organizing. I believe that you should get on funnel immediately as a new agent, because here's what we've seen is what used to take an agent out doesn't take them out anymore because of funnel. And that is having enough activity. Like what takes you out of this business, and if you don't get out of the learning curve and through the learning curve before your runway runs out, it's because you're not doing enough activity. And that's where funnel can help you do that. It's going to shorten your learning curve. Dare I say that? But I truly believe it does, because you're putting in enough activity. You're talking with more people because it's so seamless. You're literally click to dial or you're auto dialing and you're just rolling, and you don't have any time to think about that bad call. You get to go to the next, and then you just booked another appointment, and then you go to the next, and then you have a bad call, and then you go to the next, and then you have an awesome call, and then you write an app, right? Like this I find it gamifies the learning curve, which is just wild to me, and why I think people are having so much fast success now compared to back when we didn't have it.
Yeah. I mean, what was 300 dials in a week as a minimum for us before funnel is now, I mean, easily 500, double, triple that.
100%.
Here's what I want you guys thinking about. I'm going to kick it to you first, Andrew, and then we'll just round robin with our remaining couple minutes. Resources that you leverage for people in the learning curve. I know, and I want to be clear to people, you're part of an agency, and every agency, while they're part of Symmetry's umbrella, there are micro differences in culture. So your agency owner, your 130, might direct you to specific resources, might not direct you to the ones that we'll mention. I always want you to defer to your AO, defer to your 130, but with that caveat, I want the three of us here are going to recommend stuff we have our teams use, whether your AO does or not. Again, work with them. But Andrew, walk us through the resources that you leverage to get people through the learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let you know Chris Leak's training. We utilize that a lot. And Mortgage Protection University, it is more like a catalog itself than a full, like, I'm going to start at step 1 and go to step 75. Like, you go there for what you're really trying to learn, right? And then he's got some great recorded presentations. I mean, 13 of them. And I think so many people want that. But it's just the learning, the objections, learning and seeing how he trains. That's something I send to people all the time. And I recommend spend 2 hours a week in there, learning what you need to learn at that moment to get through that piece of the learning curve.
Where do they find that?
Easiest place is sfgquotes.com, which is another like little easy resource you just need to have pinned. It's in there. I think it's like kind of in the middle. It's got a little lion logo. If it's still that, he might change the logo later, but
It looks, yeah, it's Mortgage Protection University. When you click on it, there are two options. One is $25, one is $50. To my understanding, the only difference is the $50 one includes those 13 actual sales presentations that the $25 one does not.
and it's a one-time thing. You pay for it, you have it for life. Just do it. It is so worth it.
Yeah, I didn't actually know you were going to recommend that because that was going to be my absolute #1 recommendation. I find people will cut their learning curve to 1/3 of the time going through that course. Another resource that I have that I leverage is my agency's help page. So larsenlifegroup.com/help. And it's categorized by struggle. So if you need help with the phones, great. If you need help setting the appointments, great. If you need help running the appointments, great. If you just need help not quitting, it's there. And so you just click on whatever you need help with, and it brings you to a landing page directed there. But that Chris Leak Mortgage Protection Mastery is hands down where I send new people. Kelly, what was it again? I'm going to put it in the comments here, but for those of you watching the replay, larsenlifegroup.com and then /help. All right, Gabby.
I actually thought you were talking about resources like leads.
No, I'm talking about like literally helpful tools for people to get through the learning curve.
So I hate to beat a dead horse, but our business, as far as helping new agents get going, transformed when we started putting people into the Chris Leak training. Because here's what it does: is it builds this. There's this huge gap that you have to fill. And it gets filled faster with the foundation of everything that you're going to learn in that sales mastery course. So not to beat a dead horse, but we do that as well. Chris Leak training all the way. It breaks down the learning curve by 3 to 6 months.
Man, so good. Our time is up, guys. Andrew, Gabby, thank you so much. I really think that this is going to help a lot of people. This is part 2 of 4 on our series of mastery. Those of you that are following us live 1 week from today, we will get into mastering production with Mr. Michael Matthews and Ms. Jill Johnson. It's going to be such a great call, but we're going to build on this, right? You can't master production if you haven't gotten through the learning curve. You can't come to Andrew and be like, I want to make 10 grand a month and be really good at this, but you haven't yet made 10 dials, right? Like that doesn't work. You have to get through and master this. Then we're going to go get good at this. If this is just becoming competent, the next step is becoming good. Can't wait to see you guys there live. That will be part 3. We will record it and add it to this library.
Appreciate you.
Bye.